If you're an outdoor rock climber, you're certainly familiar with a Prusik. It's the hitch that if you load the tail, it holds on the host rope. Yet it's easy to move when the tail's not loaded. In this case, on a rope this heavy, it can hold thousands of kilograms. There's no denying the many extraordinary uses of Prusiks. There are many really good videos on YouTube describing the ins and outs of Prusiks, so I'm not going to go through that here. What I am going to do is show you a Prusik that you've probably never heard of before, and I'm also going to do an honorable mention of a very handy Prusik that you may not have heard of before. So the typical Prusik starts out as a piece of rope tied in a loop or a sling with a double fisherman's knot. The disadvantage of a double fisherman's knot is that it has really tight bends. With a really tight bend in a rope, the inside fibers of that bend are slack. They're compressed and they're not contributing to the load. That means the outer fibers are taking most of the load, and the load is not evenly distributed across the cross-section of the rope. This means the rope is not using its full strength. A strong knot that doesn't weaken the rope as much is a knot that has wider bends. More of the fibers are stretched out and contributing to the load. Another disadvantage of double fisherman's knots is once they've had a high load on them, they're almost impossible to get undone. This is the only type of knot that I've literally had to cut out of a rope because I couldn't get it undone. So what I'm going to show you is called the Hoyland Prusik, and it was developed in the early 90s by a fellow who did a lot of scientific testing on the rigging systems of the time. Oh my goodness, look at all the memory in this rope that I can't get out of here. That's okay. So, typically when we start tying a loop for a Prusik, we would tie a double overhand over this, and a double overhand over this, and that would be it. But we're not going to do that this time. What we're going to do is we're going to press these three pieces of rope together like so. Then we're going to tie our double overhands to form a double fisherman's. Going over all three pieces of rope there. Here's one. I'm going to flip this over because I'm extremely right-handed. It's a little long, but we can sort that out in a second. Tie my other double fisherman's around that. Like so. Pull them together like we normally would. We end up with a larger knot with wider bends, so it's stronger in the middle. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull, which one is it? This one here. I'm just going to slide this knot down towards the middle and give it a good tighten. So there's our new Prusik design. Tighten it all up. So the advantages of this is that the knot is offset already, so you never have the problem when you're tying your Prusik at this end that your carabiner has to be offset. The knot is already offset for it. The other alleviated problem is now this is a much larger and stronger knot. Much larger bends in it. And finally, this is going to be much easier to undo because of the wider bends as well. So one other really nice feature of the Hoyland Prusik is that if you tie the Prusik so that the tails are uneven, when you load the Prusik, it'll automatically even out the ends. A bit of friction there, so I got to give it a hand there. Like so. So are there any disadvantages to the Hoyland Prusik? There is one. The one problem I can see with this Prusik is that if you don't have anything through this loop, and especially if you accidentally clip in up here instead of down in the loop, you can conceivably pull this knot right apart. If you're not experienced at rigging systems for climbing or rescue, you might not want to use this Prusik. Okay, so now time for an honorable mention. What you'll need is a piece of webbing tied into a loop or a sling, and a carabiner. Either a bent gate or a offset will work really well for this. Speaking of offsets, we're going to offset the knot so it's not right at the bottom of the loop. But there will be fine. And then we're going to take the end of the loop, the other end of the loop, and put it into the carabiner. I'm going to set the carabiner along the side of the rope. We're going to clip the carabiner in nice and tidy. We're going to do that typically 3 times, but you can adjust this a little bit depending on the rope and the sling combination. So there's twice. Get that nice and flat. And there's 3 times. So the beauty of a Bachmann Prusik is that you've got this handle to wiggle the Prusik and loosen it, because that can be a really tough thing to do on a loaded normal Prusik. And we'll slide it up. Still in the frame, yeah. And then when you load the Prusik by the tail, it won't move. That's all there is to it. I use this for adjusting the length of rope on my hammock. Works really good for that. So that's it. Hope you got something out of this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and support our channel. Also, click on the bell, click on the like. Look at that. Women really do hold up half the sky. The neighbor's downspout drains right into our parking spot. That's really handy.